لتحصلوا على الملايين ليس لكم إلا المحامي لورنس قاجي، خبرة طويلة في الإصابات وحوادث السقوط والسيارات، يتحدثون لغتكم، يحاربون من أجلكم. المحامي لورنس قاجي، الاستشارات مجانية ولا يستلمون أتعابهم إلا بعد إكمال القضية. زوروهم على 10000 West 9 Mile Road Suite 1400 Southfield. اتصلوا على المحامي لورنس قاجي 248-702-6641 248-702-6641.
أعزائي المستمعين، مساء الخير عليكم مرة أخرى، وبرنامج المحامي لورنس قاجي. معنا في الاستوديو المحامي لورنس قاجي وأيضا المحامي جان شرودر. قبل كل شيء نرحب بهم، نقول لهم أهلا وسهلا بالمحامي جان لورنس. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. أهلا وسهلا to the listeners and to yourself.
Welcome Mr. John.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
وأهلا ست مارا العزيزة اللي راح تترجم لنا من اللغة العربية إلى الإنجليزية وبالعكس.
أهلا وسهلا.
طبعا موضوعنا اليوم أيضا تكملة لمواضيعنا القديمة، وهي عندنا موضوع التسوية. موضوع التسوية بالنسبة للكلاينت يأخذها إذا هو راضي، وإذا ما راضي يروح للمحكمة أو لا. تفضل.
اليوم الموضوع مالتنا. Today we are going to talk about settlements. Should we accept the settlement? Should we file a lawsuit and go to court? What should we do?
Yeah, so this is, John's probably the most important question that you're going to have to answer during the litigation process, right? Is, you know, just to give a little background, so what we're talking about is towards the end of your case, you will likely get a settlement offer.
Or sometimes in the beginning.
Or sometimes at the beginning. Most of the time, let's say 80 to 90% of cases, it's usually towards the end of the case. Mm-hmm. Or you'll get something so low at the beginning that you're just not going to entertain it, right? They're just trying to get the case out of their hands early, and we say, no way. So usually what happens is towards the end of the case, you'll get a settlement offer, and the insurance company will offer you X amount to settle your case and to do away with the whole case. So the question is, do we take the last best offer the insurance company has to offer, mm-hmm. or do we go to trial? Do we take a chance and go to trial?
مثل ما هو سؤالنا نفسه تقريبا
نفس الموضوع مالنا. هل هو
نلف بنفس الحلقة؟
طبعا نعم. هي دائما بها لف ودوران.
لا مو لف ودوران. لف حلقة.
النقطة هنا تجي بأنه إذا أنت طبعا أكثر 80% من القضايا تطول ما ناخذ رأسا تسوية.
نعم.
أكو بعد 20% من القضايا يسوون تسوية مباشرة. المباشرة
سهلة قصدك؟
لو سهلة.
نعم.
لو الأضرار اللي بيها جدا كبيرة أو الحد مبين وما يقدرون يروحون بعد أكثر نسوي تسوية. لو إذا مناخذه يريدون هم يخلصون من القضية ينطون فن مبلغ بسيط بس احنا ما نقبله. بس سؤالنا إذا ورا ما صار رفعنا قضية ضدهم وصارت تسوية،
نعم.
هل ناخذ هاي التسوية ونقبلها؟ هذا آخر شيء هم يعرضوه علينا.
نعم.
هل نقبل ناخذه لو نصعد للمحكمة العليا؟
إذا ما قبلناه راح نصعد للمحكمة العليا. Yes.
Right. Yeah, and I love this question, Lawrence, because there's no one right answer for every case.
Never.
Every case is different.
There's never a right or wrong answer for this, because if you go to trial, if you say no to the offer, you go to trial, and I'll explain. It's out of your hands. Essentially the jury decides your destiny and how much they're going to award. It could be zero, which I'll kind of get into the differences.
هذا السؤال ماكو جواب نعم أو لا. يعتمد كل قضية. مرات من تروح للمحكمة العليا إذا تقول لا ما أريد هاي التسوية وأروح للمحكمة العليا، بعد تطلع من إيدين المحامي وتطلع من إيدين الانشورنس تصير بإيد المحلفين. القاعدين
الجوري
بالضبط. هل المحلفين هذول ما تعرفهم، ما يعرفوك، راح يعتمدون على شكلك، لونك، تصرفاتك، والإثباتات. هل راح يقتنعون بها نعم أم لا؟
هم الجوري منه هو أنا وأنت
بالضبط، الناس اللي
يعني
مثلنا.
people that live in that county, right?
بالضبط.
يعيشون
A
بالمنطقة.
lot of listeners have been asked to, they got a letter in the mail saying, hey, you're up for jury selection. And
yes. المحامي جان والمحامي لورنس راح يشرحون لنا عدة سيناريوهات، هل نقبل نعم أو لا.
جيد.
So like I said, there's no right or wrong answer for this, right? So what I do is I look at the case, I look at the facts of the case, I look at the policy limits, and I see what issues we're going to have at trial, right? Versus the benefits of going to trial. What's the jury going to see that, they're just people, they're normal people just like us. So even if I wanted to ask somebody else about the case, hey, what do you think about this case? You never know what's going to happen. So as I'm saying, there are cases where, I think the offer is too low. And I'll let my client know that, hey, I think this offer is too low. There are cases where I think it's a decent offer, and let's say the case is worth $100,000, right? And they're offering $95,000. Is it really worth an extra $5,000 to go to trial and to risk getting zero, or take that $95,000 in that situation? And I'll give an example after you.
مثل ما تفضل المحامي لورنس، قال ماكو جواب إلا نعم أو لا، يعتمد على كل قضية، ويعتمد على الحد الأعلى للإنشورنس مالتك، همينة مال الشخص. مثلا إذا هو عنده مثلا 100,000 وهم يسوون تسوية 95، هل تسوى نصعد للمحكمة العليا على مود 5,000؟ احنا نقول لا، لانه من تصعد للمحكمة العليا احتمال تاخذ 0 واحتمال تاخذ 10%، يعني 5، بس انت تخلي روحك 50% تخسر القضية كاملة وما يجيك ولا penny.
So I'm gonna give two. No, right. I'm gonna give two very, very extreme examples. So these are very extreme.
Yeah.
But I do want to just to kind of give the listeners put it into perspective.
Yes.
We had a case recently where the last insurance company's offer was $25,000. That was the last offer.
25,000.
They said take it or we're going to trial.
المحامي لورنس راح يعطينا مثالين كلش واحدة عكس الأخ، وكلش يعني قوية، بس يريد المستمعين بأنه يشوفون شلون الفرق بأنه هاي بين الاثنين. الأولى اللي هي الانشورنس، آخر اقتراح إلها تنطينا 25,000 آخر شيء.
So I thought that was too low of an amount to settle for, and I advised my client that. So we went to arbitration, which is similar to a trial, like we're talking about, and we were awarded $315,000.
Wow.
Okay. فالمحامي اقترح على المحامي لورنس، اقترح على الزبون بأنه هذا السعر جدا قليل لهاي القضية، وخلي هي بس 25,000 ما تسوى. فقال له خلي نصعد للمحكمة العليا. اكو قبل المحكمة العليا هي مثل المحكمة بس شو أقل فورمال،
يحجون وياه
بالضبط. سو ذاك الوقت انطوه 315,000.
وما في داعي بعد يصعد.
So that was essentially our trial.
Yeah.
So on the other side of things, I had a case also recently where they offered an amount. It was a low offer, but they offered an amount. It was around $50,000.
No.
And we were going back and forth, and we decided not to take the offer. We decided to go to trial. And at trial, we got a big fat 0. We got a no cause.
القضية الأخي أعطانا 50,000 وظلوا يحجون ويا الزبون، وراحة جاية لا قرروا بأنه خلنا نروح للمحكمة العليا. مع الأسف هالمرة صفر. المحلفين قرروا ضد الزبون مالتنا.
نعم.
وطلعوا ويا أهل الانشورنس.
زين، أكو شغلة، هذا يعني من يصير أنه مال 50,000 ما أخذها المحامي ما له علاقة، لأنه هو الزبون ما قبل بال50,000، تمام؟ فيتحمل المسؤولية قصدي يعني. شنو رأي المحامي؟
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. What was the good question?
The question is, with talking to the client, he refused to take the 50, or they decided not to take the 50, not refuse. He decided not to take the 50 and going forward to trial. So now all the costs, who's gonna pick it up? Is that the lawyer or is that on the client itself?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, Lawrence, you want to address that? Or?
Go ahead. Yep.
I mean, generally speaking, you know, if we will usually pick up all the costs.
Are we talking about the cost? Or are we talking about
both.
Whose final determination is it?
It is about the cost.
Okay.
Of he lost the 50.
Yeah.
So 0. There's cost and there's bills still.
Right.
So who is gonna be
responsible?
So I thought the question was who has the final decision? Is it the lawyer or the client?
This is two.
That's what I thought.
This is two. No, okay. This is two.
Yeah, I mean, there are two different questions there, right? So the client has the final decision to make any decision as far as their settlement, right? So when you have an offer on the table, you know, our duty as lawyers is to relay that offer and give our advice, but ultimately they have the final decision, right? So that at the end of the day, whether or not they accept an offer is ultimately up to the client.
Okay, most of the times, the lawyer advised the client or no?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. No,
that's our job.
You advise.
That's our job.
We
definitely.
always give our advice, and we say, you know, we'll tell them. We'll tell them the risks, and I kind of was just jotting down as we were talking some of the different factors that might go into whether or not we want to go to trial.
The 50,000 that he will lose them, you know.
So I was going to go into this in a little bit, but one of the things that you have to understand about going to trial is that you can almost always win more, less, or nothing at all, or exactly the same amount as what their offer is at the end of the day, right? But there's no guaranteeing, and we'll explain in a little bit as to why. But Lawrence, did you want to address the cost?
Yeah. So generally speaking, I personally have never taken any costs from any of my clients ever. So I've had cases where I've had, you know, let's say 20,000, because whenever we go to trial, we have to pay for experts, which are doctors usually.
Yes, and you pay amount. There's amount.
You know, there's
such amount. You know.
Exactly, and sometimes their bills can range from $2,000 to $5,000-$10,000, and usually we would front those costs, and hopefully we're successful and we can recover those costs later. But if we're not successful, I personally have never went after any of my clients for any of the costs. And that's just kind of how I generally do business. So
مثل ما تفضلوا المحامين قالوا بأنه شخص يعتمد. هم طبعا المحامي ينطي للزبون اقتراحه دائما والنصيحة. هل الزبون ياخذه يقبل او لا، هذا يتبع للزبون. لازم احنا نمشي ورا الزبون. نحاول نقنعه، بس مرات احنا راسنا قوي ما نقتنع.
لا الزبون
يا الزبون طبعا.
انت تحكي من طرف المحامي.
لا احكي من طرف الزبون. النقطة وين؟ بأنه المحامي لورنس شخصيا لحد هاليوم إذا الزبون اختار بأنه يروح للمحكمة لاحتمال يربح القضية أكثر، يقدر يربحها أقل، يقدر يخسرها. إذا خسرها المحامي لورنس لحد اليوم ما أخذ أي مبالغ من أي أحد للخسارة.
So if I can, there's a few things that I think maybe we want to explain about, like the factors as far as how we, advise clients as to whether or not they're going to trial. And Lawrence, I'm sure you're going to have other things than what I just jotted down here, but some of the factors that you're going to be looking at is, what is the offer that is on the table relative to what the potential upside is, right? So that's one of the things. Because if our total claims, as Lawrence just kind of used as an example before, if our total claims are 100,000, they're offering 95% of it, and then we're going to have to put additional expenses to go to trial, that might not make sense. But if their offer is very low relative to our potential upside, it might make more sense. But there are a lot of other factors too. You don't know, and this is something that's universally true, you don't know who your jury is going to be before you get there, which means the individuals who are actually deciding the facts of your case are completely unknown until you get there. So, I mean, it could be, a neighbor, or it could be someone that you've never, it's highly unlikely it's anyone that you've ever met. Yeah. And it could be someone who does not understand your culture. It could be someone who doesn't understand anything about accidents because they've never been in one. It could be someone who's never even had to go to physical therapy. You never know.
It also could be somebody that says, well, how can this case be worth X amount? Right. I was involved in a car accident 6 months ago, and
I didn't get anything.
I was not injured. So you also have, people like that would probably hurt your case if it does go to a jury.
يعتمد إذا نروح للمحكمة العليا تعتمد على عدة أشياء، مثل أولا بأنه المحلفين هل هم يعرفون، ما يعرفوك، رقم واحد، ما يعرفون شخصيتك، ما يعرفون شنو صار، بالضبط، الخلفية من أي دولة، من أي جاي أنت، هل هم يجوز هم ما دارسين همينة، غير أكو ما دارسين، وأكو دارسين أكثر من اللازم. يقول لك أنا كنت همين بهذه السيارة قبل 6 أشهر ما صار بي شيء، كل شيء يعني بعد هذا احنا ما نعرف، لا احنا نعرف ولا الزبون راح يعرف ولا اي احد الى ان يوم الطب للمحكمة وتشوفهم قاعدين ما تعرفهم نهائيا. صحيح. راح تخلي قضيتك مال 2 سنين بإيد أشخاص
10 قاعدين
ما تعرف شنو هم.
صح.
ومن هم.
And some other things that I think are worth pointing out, you have a judge, and we know a little bit more about a judge before we go to trial because we've been dealing with the judge through the whole case. But nevertheless, during trial, there are motions that are often made. There are procedural matters, evidentiary rulings as far as what is allowed to be presented to a jury that often happen during the course of a trial. And one of the things I think it's hard for people to conceptualize is that we actually don't know what's going to happen during a trial, even with the judge. A judge will be presented with an objection or a motion to introduce evidence, and we don't know necessarily how that judge is going to rule. So we may go in with one game plan, and that may have to change in the middle of trial, and that may not always be good for a client. So I guess what I'm trying to say is not only do we not know who our jurors are going to be, we also don't know what a judge is always going to do.
Okay.
So there's a lot of unknowns.
That's okay.
طبعا الخطوط أي واحد عنده سؤال استفسار يقدر يخابرنا على 586-825-2015 586-825-2015. رقم تليفون المكتب، مكتب المحامي لورنس قاجي، هو 248-702-6641. Yes. Sorry.
No problem. مثل ما قلنا مو بس المحلفين ما تعرف من هم، الحاكم مع المحكمة طبعا احنا نعرف من هو قبل فترة. نعرف شخصيته، شلون مالته، شلون يحكم شوية، بس كل قضية شكل. فأنت من الطب عندك، فأنت مسوي فد يعني فد قضية وراسمها ودارسها بطريقة معينة، وهو يجي الحاكم يريد من عندك شهود، يريد من عندك إثباتات، احتمال يطلب أشياء بنص الحكم بأنه يريد غير أوراق من عندك، فانت طاب بصوره معينه وتطلع بغير صوره، وما تعرف هذا الحاكم بالضبط يعني شنو كان قصده ولو شنو يريد.
يعني يعترض على ابسط شيء يجوز
ولو يجوز يريد اشياء احنا عبالنا كل شيء موجود، وهم يعني يقول لا انا اريد فلان شيء مثلا.
صحيح.
يعتمد على الحاكم هم يعني.
So, you know, and there's some additional things too, frankly. I mean, one of the other things that have to be, you know, considered, and I think Lawrence, you just mentioned this a little bit in terms of the doctors, are additional expenses that go along with trial, right? I mean, you have to get your witnesses to trial, right? You have to get all of the documents for trial. You have to essentially pay for all these things. So at the end of the day, you could actually end up with a verdict that's higher than a settlement offer. But once you deduct all the additional costs of trial, you end up in a worse position. So one of the things that people have to consider sometimes is, what are the additional expenses? And that, again, is not 100% possible to predict, because sometimes you are essentially paying for a doctor to come in by the hour.
Yeah.
And if they have to wait for 2 or 3 days to testify, you may have a bigger charge.
Or how about at one time we had a trial going on, and the doctor was the last witness to testify, and we ran out of time. And the doctor had to come back the next day, so he missed 2 days of work essentially.
Yeah.
And he obviously is going to be reimbursed for.
Yes, exactly. النقطة الأخرى بأنه الحاكم راح يطلب شهود، وخلي بالك احنا خاصة احنا الجالية العربية تحتاج لها مترجمين لكل شيء. فأول شيء من تروح للمحكمة العليا راح تصير تكاليف أكثر. كل شاهد تجيبه ويا مترجم فلوس. لازم كل طبيب يجي يشهد. زين، الطبيب اللي يجي يشهد، والمرات المحكمة ما تطول يوم، تطول 3 أيام، تطول أسبوع.
يبقون نفس الجوريز يجون
يبقون نفس المحلفين.
We had cases that went on for 2 weeks.
بالضبط. عندنا قضايا تطول أسبوعين. فتتخيل هذا الطبيب مثلا هو خالب باله يوم واحد، هو يومين صار 3، لازم عنده ورقة من محكمة، لازم يروح للمحكمة. فهو ايش يصير؟ عنده مرضى يروح مالتهم يشعوف شغله، فالسعره كلش غالي وبالساعة. مرات توصل فد مرحلة فد سعر معين للقضية. هل تسوى تروح للمحكمة العليا وتحط كل هاي الفلوس وبعدين تطلع خسران لأنه لازم تدفع كل هاي المصاريف؟
صحيح،
ما تسوى. يجوز تزيد هي صح، قول أخذ 75 وما قبل يريد 100. زين، وتروح والمصاريف مثلا صارت فوق 35، تطلع ب65، انت خسران بعد
أكثر من 10,000
لأنه رايح على مود المصاريف.
صحيح.
Yeah. So another factor that I think is actually really important is how sympathetic is a client. And I know this sounds odd because everybody wants to think that every jury is going to love them. But the reality is everybody has a different personality, right? And I may look at someone and be like, wow, that person, I cannot believe what's happened to her, and that's horrible, and she deserves $1 million. But the person sitting next to me might look at that same person and be like, that person's making it all up. I think that they are completely full of crap, as it were.
Different,
and so I think one of the things
that I cannot say in Arabic. Full of crap.
Well, they don't believe it. So if you want to translate that,
but this is the way that you want to explain it. You know?
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking. Just making.
I actually have an example after you.
مرات الزبون مالتنا يريد يكسب الود مال المحلفين. المحلفين احتمال يعتبروا خطية وحقه وفعلا متأذي وياخذون الود مالته، وكو قسم يباعون عليه يقول له هاي تحكي كل حكي كذب ودا تمثل ومو صحيح.
صحيح.
Yeah. So we had a trial last year that I really believe we lost because the jury did not find our witness credible. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. I think that was the main issue in the case, and I think that's why we lost.
العام كان عندنا قضية بالمحكمة العليا خسرناها. السبب الرئيسي كان بأنه الشاهد المحلفين ما صدقوا بالشاهد، ما اجى الشاهد بطريقة صحيحة. مو كل شاهد ناس
and this
طبيعة.
person was actually very injured. They were very injured. They had a lot of medical treatment. The issue was how this client came off to the jury just didn't sound credible. I don't know how to explain it. She didn't present well.
Can you appeal?
It depends, there's
you can in certain cases. So there are definitely certain rulings from a judge that can be appealed. But generally speaking, a jury's verdict by itself is not going to be something that you can appeal unless there were evidentiary problems in the case or other issues that other legal issues. You can generally appeal legal, not factual findings, and a jury finds facts.
So what he's trying to say is you can't just say, okay, I don't like this number, I'm going to appeal it. There has to be a reason for the appeal.
Yes, you have
whether the judge did something wrong or the jury did something
other
wrong,
evidence,
or they brought in evidence that wasn't supposed to be brought in,
right.
That sort of thing. You can't just say, I got an award of 50,000. I don't like this number. Let me appeal it. No, there has to be a reason for the appeal.
Exactly.
So أستاذ ساهر سأل هل نقدر نعترض على الجوري المحلفين بأنه قالوا هذا السعر له. الكل اعتراض لازم عندنا أسباب ولازم نثبت إثباتات قوية ليش نريد نعترض. هذه القضية اللي خسرناها الزبون كان فعلا كلش متأذي وعنده هواية أضرار، بس الطريقة اللي عبر عن روحه والشاهد اللي عبر عنه كانت بطريقة غير صحيحة.
خطأ.
She just didn't present well. I don't know if you can translate that. She just didn't present well.
ما عرفت تقدم روحها بالطريقة الصحيحة. فخسرت القضية.
I mean, and frankly, I'll give an example actually. And this was actually many years ago at this point. But, I had a client who I strongly believed, deserved a good amount of money. And the insurance company was just offering a very, very small amount in this case. And, we fought for, God, it was years. This case just went on and on and on. And finally, we came down to it, and they made an offer in the hundreds of thousands, but the client still didn't want to take it. Okay. And at one point, I had to sit down with my client, and I said, here's the thing. Okay. There's a chance you could get a little more, right? But there's going to be costs.
Maybe more that
you could get a little more. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but you could also get a lot less. Okay. And I actually had to sit down with this client and I had to say, the other issue is I actually told her this straight up, just directly to her. I said, you're not likable. A jury will not like you. She came off as a very angry, bitter person, which is completely understandable when you're involved in a motor vehicle accident and your life's been turned around, right? It makes sense. But she didn't come off as sympathetic. She came off as just angry. And she just came off as trying to make it worse than it was, even though it was horrible. And those factors, I had to explain to the person. And she didn't really love that analysis, but we have to be frank with her and just say this is what I think. And at the end of the day, she actually ended up with a very good settlement instead of going to trial and potentially losing all of it.
Plus all that.
There's one note that I want to say is this is specifically for our Arabic listeners. I'm not sure why, Sarah, but a lot of my Arabic clients, they don't want to go to court. They don't want to go to trial. And oftentimes I'll be honest with my client if they should take an offer or if they should go to trial.
Yeah.
But it seems like, the reason I'm bringing this up is when if you're going with your lawyer, they're going to explain everything to you. There's nothing to worry about. They're going to walk you through, especially I know what my office does is walk them through every single step of the way. Mm-hmm. They never have to be nervous about going to court, especially with us.
You are right, 100%. Most of Arab, our community, they don't want to go to police station, not only court. Right.
مثل ما راح احكي اول شيء قال جان وبعدين لورنس. جان مثل ما تفضل قال كان زبونه وفعلا متأذية ورادوا ياخذون القضيه للمحكمه العليا. واحنا نكون جدا صريحين ويا الزبون لازم ونحكي الحقيقه. مرات الحقيقه تاذي همينه. قال لها انت طبيعتك وشخصيتك جدا قويه وجدا يعني تجين مرفوضه والقدامك ما يحب هالشيء، فعلى اكثر راح تخسرين القضيه لانه شخصيتك هيك
مو بيدها
بالضبط. طبعا هي ما عجبها الحكي اوف كورس وحقها، بس هي هاي الحقيقه. وظل يحكي وياها اقنعها وسوت تسويه كل الزينه وكلش فرحت بالاخير. بس هاي واحدة من الأشياء اللي إحنا أكو ناس تجي كلش قوية وأكو ناس تجي كلش خفيفة همينة مسكين تستحي ما تقدر تحكي صوتها ناصي. هذا كله هاي كلها أشياء ضد الواحد. المحامي لورنس قال وما يعرف ليش، بس أنا أعتقد يعني ويا علاقتنا هسه ويا العرب الجالية العربية قال أكثر الجالية العربية ما يحبون يصعدون للمحكمة العليا.
صحيح.
They don't like headaches.
Yeah. So look, if I tell my client, let's go to trial, don't worry about a thing. We're going to have your back.
المحامي لورنس قال إذا اقترحنا نقول لك بأنه خلينا نصعد للمحكمة العليا إحنا إيد بإيد وياك وإحنا بظهرك واقفين.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So another interesting thing that comes into play specifically to the motor vehicle accident arena is pre-existing conditions. And I think this is a really interesting one because it can actually go both ways. It can make your case both better or worse, depending upon how the jury sees it. And what pre-existing conditions is basically about is, you know, before you're involved in an auto accident, almost everyone has had something happen to them in life, whether they, I don't know, fell down the stairs, or maybe they were in another accident, or they had an injury at work, or maybe you just had a kid jump on your back and it really hurt one day, right? I mean, we've all gotten hurt at some point in our lives, whether it was when we were kids or more recently. And one of the things that's highly investigated in these cases is pre-existing conditions. So that's one of the factors that's often going to potentially at least be part of both the settlement negotiations and trial.
واحدة من الأشياء الجدا مهمة بأن نصعد للمحكمة العليا لازم نشوف الزبون شنو التاريخ الصحي مالته اللي قبل الحادث. أكثريتنا خاصة الجالية العربية حروب ببلادنا ومشاكلنا وطبيعة حياتنا بالبلاد غير شكل عن هنا. تعرضنا إلى حوادث وتعرضنا إلى أشياء هواية، فراح يشوفون هل أنت شنو أعراضك قبل الحادث اللي كانت عندك. ركبك توجعك، رقبتك، ظهرك، شظية، أي شيء. هاي كلها يشوفوها وهاي كلها تأثر على القضية والسيتلمنت مالتها، التسوية مالتها. هاي تقلل من التسوية.
And I had a client who, you know, there's kind of two different examples I have that are kind of the opposite. I had one client who, you know, he was young, fully healthy, never had any major prior issues, but had, you know, a prior auto accident. Okay. And at the end of the day, the insurance company tried to say, oh, well, look, he, you know, treated for back pain a couple years before his accident. Okay. And I said, okay, but he was fully recovered, you know, and, you know, we were able to show with medical records that basically he treated, he was fine. And now this is a whole new issue, right? But it's often not that clear. And sometimes you have people who might still be on Social Security disability, even to this day, right? And if you're on Social Security disability from a physical injury, and then you get into an accident, the insurance company is going to say, well, hold on.
This will help insurance.
Well, it might. It certainly might.
They're going to make the argument for sure.
They're going to make that argument that, well, you know what? Look, before the accident, you sat in front of the couch and watched TV. After the accident, you sat in front of the couch and watched TV. There's been no change in your lifestyle. you don't deserve any money for pain and suffering. And that's an argument they're going to make.
واحدة من الأشياء الأخرى همينة بأنه إذا أنت مثلا زبون كان صحي كل شيء ما بي، قبل كم سنة صار عنده حال سيارة وهذا ثاني، الانشورنس راح تسأل تقول أنت ذاك قبل كم سنة صار عندك حال سيارة وظهرك يوجعك، لازم نثبت بالتقارير الطبية بأنه هو صار زين وبعد ما دا يروح للثيرابي وما دا ما يتعالج وهسه زين ومرت له خرج عنده الألم. هاي أشياء سهلة نقدر نراويها للإنشورنس. أكو أشياء مو سهلة أصعب، أنت على السوشيال سيكيورتي ديسابيليتي، أنت على إعانة بأنه أنت ما تقدر تشتغل لأسباب صحية، مثلا ظهرك رقبتك أو أي شيء وصار الحادث. هاي الانشورنس كلش تتونس على هاي القضية، لأنه تقدر تحصل كل التقارير الطبية تقول لك أوكي أنت كنت أوريدي ما تقدر تمشي هواية وقاعد النهار كله على القنفة، ورا الحادث بعدك قاعد على القنفة، شنو الفرق اللي صار؟
ما صار شيء بحياتك
بالضبط. شنو صار التغيير اللي بحياتك؟ ماكو أي تغيير.
And then right along with that is also prior claims. So now this was a long time ago, but I had a sexually stolen vehicle case that I took to trial, and we ultimately won that case. But in certain cases, what they look at is they look at prior claims, and they're going to say, hey, you know, you've had prior issues come up in the past. You've had prior claims, and we think that your prior claims history makes this suspicious, which I think is actually a really bad reason for an insurance company to delay or deny payment of a claim. But one of the things that insurance companies will look at is a history of claims. And so they will think, well, maybe this is a fraudulent claim because they've had claims in the past and now they continue having claims.
Okay.
So that's another thing that sometimes insurance companies look at.
النقطة الأخرى اللي الانشورنس همينة تشوف بيها مثل ما نقول المحكمة العليا، بأنه هل أنت عندك قضايا قبل، قضايا مع السيارة، حوادث سيارات، يقدرون يرجعون كلش لي ورا، من يشوفون أكو فد باترون نحن نقول بأنه مبين أنت كل 4-5 سنين عندك قضية ويقولون تعال أوقف إيش دا يصير هنا، همينا ما يقبلون، يخلون علامة حمراء على القضية على الاسم نفسه. إحنا هنا تصير مرات من تصير بحادث ورا 2-3 عندك حادث اللاخ
تصير
وهي صدق هيك صارت
حقيقية، بس تصير يعمل انشورنس غير شكل.
بالضبط، يقول لك شلون رهم هيك وهيك، بس الانشورنس يباع عليه علامة. يعتقدون يعني الجالية مالتنا بأنه كل ما صار عنده حوادث أكثر كل ما أحسن. بالعكس، كل ما صارت حوادث أكثر كل ما تقل مالتك التسوية.
Okay. So Lawrence, did you want to move on to anything else?
إيه، خلينا نتحول على الانشورنس، الإفادة عند الحلفان وهاي الشغلات الأخرى.
We are gonna move on going for the non-recorded, for the EOOs, and see what we are going to do with that.
So just to wrap up this conversation that we're having. So me personally, in my office, we've settled, tried, handled over 3,000 cases in our office. So I think I know what cases are worth. I think I know when I should tell the client to accept the offer or push it to trial. And if you ever need any help with that, you can always give us a call. If you're presented with an offer from the insurance company and you're not sure whether to take it or not, you can always call us. I'll gather your facts. And even without, hiring us, I wouldn't mind giving you an opinion on, what you should do in that case. So feel free to call us anytime.
ننهي الكلام على المحكمة العليا بأنه المحامي لورنس حاليا يعني سوى تسوية إلى أكثر من 300,000
3000
قضية.
300,000
soon, who knows? It's coming.
Who knows?
It's coming. And,
It's coming after how many years?
إن شاء الله.
Maybe قريب.
إن شاء الله. And يقول يعني حاليا أعتقد أعرف بأنه إذا نسوي تسوية القضية هل الزبون لازم يأخذها أو لا، أو نصعد للمحكمة العليا، أقدر أنطي النصيحة بأنه نعم أو لا. كذلك إذا أي أحد عنده تسوية وما مقتنع بيها يقدر يتصل بينا بالمكتب ونقدر نساعد اللي نقدر عليه، لأنه ما نقدر نروح ورا مال 2-3 بس نقدر نقول له نعم أو لا.
طبعا دائما تقدرون تخابرون مكتب المحامي لورنس قاجي اللي هو 248-702-6641 248-702-6641. واللي يحب انه اذا عنده سؤال يقدر يتصل بينا على 586-825-2015. Yes.
Okay. So
We'll move.
Yeah, we are moving on to non-recordeds and EOs.
Sure. So so we've been talking a lot about trial, and that's sort of something that happens at the end of a case. But long before you get to trial, the insurance company will want to do a statement with you. In almost every single case. I've had very few cases where they haven't wanted to get at least some information directly from the client.
التسوية تحدث دائما بنهاية القضية، بس قبل ما نوصل للتسوية، قبل هواية من نوصل للتسوية، على الأكثر الإنشورنس تطلب إفادة من الشخص المصاب عن طريق أو آخر، مباشرة عن طريق المحامي، تريد معلومات من الشخص نفسه.
Now, I know this might sound silly, but the best piece of advice is just to get counsel. Because frankly, if you start giving information to the insurance company, with respect to an injury claim, at least, when we're talking about vehicle damage or smaller claims, this is not necessarily as important, but with respect to bigger claims, injury claims, if you're giving statements to the insurance company, anything you say can and will be used against you by the insurance company.
You can't add maybe after you give the evidence.
Once you've said something, you can't unsay it. Generally speaking, once the insurance company, whether it's a recorded statement or a non-recorded statement, whether it's an examination under oath or a deposition, they are going to be taking down everything you say. And even if you manage to explain it away later, it's still going to be a question. It's still going to delay compensation on your claim.
الإفادة تكون الانشورنس يريد إفادة من عندك. إذا طلبوا من عندك تشرح لهم، خاصة إذا أنت متضرر صحيا. إذا يريدون من عندك إفادة بأنه سيارتك شنو الأشياء اللي خربت بيها، عادي، هاي مو فد مشكلة. بس خاصة الإصابات الصحية، كل شيء اللي تقوله يستعمل معاك وضدك، واللي قلته بعد ما يقدر يترجع. انتهى. اللي يطلع
كلمة تطلع
بعد ما ترجع. بالضبط. نصيحتنا الأولى والأخيرة، شوف محامي خليه وياك. هل يكون الإفادة عادية بس كلام، أكو إفادة مسجلة، وأكو إفادة تحت الحلفان، فهاي كلها تستعمل ضد الشخص الزبون المتأذي.
So we're just talking about how things come full circle, right?
Yes.
And this is exactly what happens, right? At the beginning of the case, client says something that's going to hurt their case later, and now we got to deal with it at trial. It's going to that same phone call, that EUO, it's going to come up at trial. So when I say I'm going to look at the issues that we have at trial, if we have an issue with an EUO, to where the insurance company asks a question in a way that they can trick the client, and they say something that's going to hurt their case, that's going to be an issue that we have to deal with
later on
at trial at the end.
Yes. مثل ما قلنا، ليش مرات نقدر نروح للمحكمة العليا لو لا نباوع القضية. واحدة من الأشياء اللي نشوفها بأنه هل الزبون حكى مع الانشورنس
قبل ما يجينا.
بالضبط. وحتى مرات ويانا ويخابرون الانشورنس. احنا دائما نقول للزبون، من عندك محامي بس يخابرك الانشورنس، جاوبهم حتى بعد لا يخابروك، جاوبهم وقول لهم عندي محامي فلان اسم المحامي،
اتصلوا بي.
واتصلوا بي. that's all. لأنه اللي تقوله يرجع يدور مثل ما قلنا يدور يرجع عليك وتطلع القضية مرة الأخوة وتنفتح مرة الأخوة ويسألوك بأنه هل أنت حكيت هيك قلت بالإفادة مالتك قلت احتمال كلش كبير تكون تستعمل ضدك.
And you know, one of the biggest problems I see, and frankly, I think Lawrence, you probably agree with me, is false statements. And it's not even that people are trying to give false statements, is that they will forget something. They're asked a question, for example, about a pre-existing condition. Were you ever in an accident before? No, I wasn't in an accident. But then, guess what? Turns out they were, and it was a few years ago, but now it looks like they're lying to an insurance company. Okay, so people interpret in regular conversation, right? People interpret the questions in accordance with the situation they're in. And this is a big problem in the legal field because you're not supposed to interpret what you think they want to know. You just have to answer the questions directly. Or what's going to happen a lot of the times is they're going to use that statement against you. And so a lot of the times people are either making accidentally false statements or they forget something and they don't disclose it when they're asked. And that can cause a lot of problems.
Even if they forget any insurance, they don't know that.
Well, not knowing something is fine as long as you say you don't know it.
Yes.
But see, the problem is when people don't know something, they try to make something up. And that's where they get into a lot of trouble.
Okay.
الأكبر مشكلة اللي احنا نمر بيها بأنه الزبون يبدي يحكي ويا أهل الانشورنس راح تسأله أسئلة واحتمال نفس السؤال ينسأل عدة طرق مختلفة. يسألك هل أنت كنت بحادث؟ لو تفتهمه غلط، لو أنت ما متأكد وننسى مثلا الحادث صار له 5 سنين هو ولا باله وهو متنرفز دا يحكي وياهم وخايف وما يعرف واللغة وإذا أكو مترجم وإذا تفتهم المترجم نعم أو لا وتقول لا مثلا خلاص لزمت عليك بأنه أنت مو نسيت أنت كذبت عليهم. بالضبط.
But what do you think the insurance company is going to do at trial? They're going to say, well, you told us this. Why did you say that? That's not what you're saying now.
Right.
فمن تجي المحكمة العليا راح يسألك يقول لك أنت بالبداية قلت لنا هيجي وإحنا مسجليها ليش هسه تقول إيه؟ يعني معناتها كذبت علينا. هاي وحدة من النقاط.
هاي تأخذ على نظر الاعتبار.
بالضبط.
And the jury will sit on the side and say, maybe
you're a liar.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they were lying. You know, maybe this whole thing's fabricated.
Yeah. Which is what they're going to try to do. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what the insurance company's goal is. If you're at trial, right, their attorneys are trying to do what? They're trying to prove that everything you're saying is wrong, at least on some level.
That's essentially their job, the lawyer's job.
Yeah.
So مثلا مثال كلش هل أنت مسوي عملية قبل 20 سنة تنسى واحد ينسى.
يعني قصدك أنه الإنسان لما عنده محامي هذا قوليها
بالضبط.
لما عنده محامي هو
بالضبط.
يطلع خارج يجاوب الانشورنس بس يقول لهم عندي محامي.
يجاوب الانشورنس عنده محامي راح يسوون إفادة وياه. راح يظلون يسوون إفادة وياه. بس محامي وياه إحنا ويا المحامي نترجم نحكي بيناتنا قبل ما نحكي ويا أهل الانشورنس نفتهم كل شيء يكون هو مرتاح نفسيا لأن هو قاعد ويا المحامي مالته الزبون تصير كلش غير شكل.
And we know their tricks, right? We've done this 1,000 times. We know the insurance company's tricks.
And I mean, and sometimes it's even just really basic, you know, forgetfulness but it comes off as a lie. I mean, you know, I literally do statements every single week with clients, okay? Multiple times a week. And I had a client, frankly, today, okay?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a huge deal, but we talked about all the different places he treated, okay? And then when he was asked the question, where did you treat? He gave them the name of the first place. And then they said, did you treat anywhere else? And he said, no. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Do we just have a 20-minute conversation about all the different places you treat?
They forget everything.
So, right. And it's not, and of course he wasn't trying to, you know, lie. He wasn't trying to mislead them. He just at that very second,
He
it
forgets.
escaped his mind.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing that, of course I caught it and I said, hey, we just talked about this. You got these other places, right? And he said, oh, yeah. And then he went into him and it was fine.
To refresh his mind every
but again, it's that kind of thing that the insurance company loves to just latch on to.
got something.
بالضبط. مثل ما تفضل المحامي جان، تقريبا مو تقريبا اكيد كل اسبوع عنده افاده ويا زبون ويا الانشورنس. ابسط شيء هاليوم واحنا من اكو افاده نقعد ويا الزبون قبل ساعه 3-4 ساعه نحكي على القضيه مالته كلها، نشوف وين راح تعالج، نحكي على القضيه كامله كلها، وهو يذكرنا واحنا نذكره كل شيء.
ممكن تسجل.
سألوا اليوم يا مكانات رحت تعالجت، انطاهم اول اسم ونسلخ. فمن اكو المحامي وياك واكو غير شخص رأسا يقولها فد لحظة نقدر نوقف كل شيء، يحكي ويا الزبون يقول له انت قلت لي فلان نسيته، يقدر يرجع يقولها ايه انا رحت لفلان مكان وفلان، فرأسا يصلح وتمشي الاشياء
قبل ما تروح.
بالضبط.
no.
So I think we are at our last minutes.
Tomorrow's going to be keeping time, not you anymore.
It's okay, don't worry. Don't worry. This hour is for you. Last words, Mr. Lawrence.
I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and like I said, this is always for information. It's not for any other purposes. Just want to advise the listeners on kind of how to educate them on how to handle these claims, especially with the insurance companies being on the other side of things. So just want to be careful.
And we love talking to our clients. We love talking to them.
I know.
And we love informing people, and it's great. It's just a lot of fun. And you know what? If anybody has any questions, call us. We'll be happy to.
تقدرون تخابرون على 248-702-6641. يتحدثون لغتكم طبعا، وموجودة الأخت تمارا طبعا هناك 24 hours.
9 to 5. Lawrence is available 24
I'm always available 24 hours a day.
Yes.
For sure.
And if he needs something إذا هو يحتاج immediately he will let me know.
How much he use his phone?
How much are you?
Every 24 hours in 24 hours.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he does.
Listen, all jokes aside, whenever I need my staff, John, tomorrow, they're always available. I mean, we had even this week we had something that happened at night, and so we're always available.
طبعا شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. ونشكرك عزيزتي.
أهلا وسهلا.
مستمعينا مشاهدينا الأعزاء، الحلقة موجودة أيضا على اليوتيوب على فيوتشر راديو MI، وإن شاء الله راح تكون أيضا على الفيسبوك. الأسبوع القادم راح تكون كل حلقاتنا أيضا على الفيسبوك، ونتمنى لكم الموفقية. تنعاد الحلقة يوم الثلاثاء في الساعة 8 مساء. شكرا لاستماعكم، شكرا لمشاهدتكم.